Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and we're replaying a night battle in Rome 2 Total War over by the rivers. Well, at least two river crossings. My opponent is going to be playing as the Suebi. I have Cimmerian troops. I'm going to put this on slow motion because the battle gets underway pretty quick. So I split up my forces, and I have a fair amount of steppe horse archers here and then noble archers, or at least armored horse archers. And my goal here was to get immediately to their side as soon as possible, because rules were no artillery and max 4 of the same unit. So I figured my opponent would bring some high tier infantry and try and block up and hold the passes with archers to reinforce. So what I needed to do was, well, if I have no way to bust through this with artillery, then I need to at least sneak through with some cavalry, get into his rear lines, and start harassing from there. So I'm trying to make my way around. You can see one of my units was smart enough to pathfind its way to safety. My other units kind of got caught. I'd say one of them lost 5 men in the process. The other one scoots on out of there with no damage, so a light price to pay. My fear was that he would have a bunch of archers behind this to just massacre any of my troops that ran across, but luckily that was not the case. So I was able to pull through with only 6 losses to my steppe archers, and then I'm going to pull up through this position and start to get pick peltasts, Scythian hoplites, and Cimmerian noble infantry pushing forward. And now both of us are going to face off in what's a typical river battle. But the advantage here is I have units free in the back, so this was a brilliant, well, not brilliant, but very necessary move on my part, and very lucky for me that it actually worked, that I have 3 roaming horse archers in the back. My opponent has a lot more sturdy men, so he's got like heavy horse, for instance, or noble riders, and these guys are too slow to the point where they won't be able to catch my steppe horse archers, so I'm just going to duck and dive in and out of range and start to pick apart his guys. They're going to start to take fire, not take too much health damage just yet, but the time will come for that to happen. Then I brought some more pick peltasts. I love bringing peltasts in Rome 2. Their armor piercing damage is really good for, beating off. Well, that's a terrible vocal clip. They're very good for beating off. Excuse me, I meant to say they're very good for beating back sword masters and other units with high armor. They just chew through them. I guess they are good at beating off as well. So we can watch them as they start to do their work here in the riverbeds. Very sexual. So yeah, they're just going to start to work on these sword masters who, yeah, they're pretty high cost and high armor, and they have a lot of investment, but it's nothing good old spear through the chest won't do. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I'm going to be able to punish my opponent. And the advantage that I have actually in this choke is my opponent can't countercharge me very well with his cav. He's trying to gear up into a position where he can do that, but I have close hoplite support, I have armored horse archers and other units that can potentially punish him. Meanwhile, my opponent is trying to zone me out in the back. I would actually recommend, if you're in this type of scenario, historically what people have found is yeah, you can't chase off steppe troops with your own cavalry. You have to either have steppe troops or you have to have some sort of ranged unit as well. So my opponent here not doing the best job. Yes, he's seeing me off somewhat with this cav, but he's already lost 8 horses. He should really be pulling forward these longbow hunters to reinforce his guys, and then maybe bring up a berserker or more likely one of these sword masters to reinforce and hold the line, prevent me from charging into his units. Because what's going to happen is, just like any force that tries to take on the steppe troops, they're going to get shot to little pieces. So I'm doing everything I can with my cheap troops to make my opponent pay the price. Now he's going to bring up his longbow hunters, and the advantage that I also have with peltas is, yeah, they do armor penetration, but they also carry these big shields, which makes them take a beating pretty well. Actually, they can absorb a lot of enemy bow fire. So these longbow hunters are going to try and do damage to me. I've already used up all my ammo, so rather than sit here and continue to take fire, I'm just going to throw my guys into the fight here. Go into the sword masters, and yeah, I'll probably end up losing this, but I want to tire them out. And notice how I'm striking at the weaker one that's already brought down to half strength. My pick peltas unit is getting absolutely slaughtered in that engagement. Not the type of fight they want to take, but look at all of these precursor javelins that the sword masters are wasting on them. So that's something I like to do a lot, is just bait out enemy forces, bait out their precursors, bait out volleys from the archers. That's really how you should use your units cost effectively. And notice that I used the peltas unit that was obviously out of ammo. I like using my ammo all the way to the fullest before charging in. At this point, I'm going to come in with 2 units after I've pretty much driven the enemy swordmasters down to half strength. So I'm going to charge in on both sides. And what I'm going to do to follow up with this is start to come in with my cav and deal with the back. I'm also pulling in some pig peltas to reinforce this engagement. And while I've got the opponent tied down, I'm going to make a push over to this side. So my opponent drew away a lot of his archer support to try and reinforce my main engagement. And this is where I'm going to start to pull up with some hoplites in the center. Cimmerian noble hoplites are actually pretty strong units. And then I have a bunch of step archers and I believe some heavy archers. Yeah, Cimmerian heavy archers also pulling up. These guys are pretty solid troops. So they're going to help to blow open a hole in the defenses. Yeah, swordmasters can tank out a lot of damage. This is, you know, I want to break through here and come to the reinforcement of my other force. And to make that go a little bit quicker, well, I'm going to bring in these nice and handy step archers. So again, these guys are going to prove their money's worth multiple times over. They've killed swordmasters previously. They've killed enemy noble riders, and so now they're going to be taking out another swordmaster force and always positioning themselves where they can shoot into the enemy's rear. This is going to be awesome. I have all 3 of them galloping into position. This is going to force my enemy to try and pull up and really force them to run into a hoplite shield wall. So you can see how I'm trying to use my skirmishers and other forces for zone of control, absorbing his volleys against my hoplites. Yeah, those precursors did a fair amount of damage, but could have been used better against, you know, the flank of my force, and I'm forcing my opponent to do all the worst trades. And then rather than stay further back, I'm going to pull my horse archers as close as possible and just try and make their shots that much more accurate, focusing fire on the swordmasters here, and they're going to crash and burn and die. My opponent figures he's not going to stand there and take it, and again I'm going to force him to charge straight into a shield wall. I'm going to tell my archers back here to stop fire because they're doing a lot of damage to my own forces, or they could potentially do a lot of damage. And then here I'm going to try and whittle up and take care of these swordmaster forces down to 1 man left. I have 54 kills already and 2 chevrons on this step horse archer. That is incredible. Now I'm going to turn my attention to the next one, but I know I'm almost out of ammo, so I'm not going to waste too much time here. I've gotten my strategic aims done, which is to blow a hole through the defenses, and now I'm going to pull through with my hoplites and pull through with my archers, and now my cavalry is going to swing back to reinforce this side of the battle. Over here, my hoplite charge up through the center. The Scythian hoplites died, but the Cimmerian ones, which are stronger, the noble infantry, are still holding strong. Versus the sword masters, they've only killed 20 of them. These sword masters have gotten 50 kills. Very good troops. But I'm just playing the numbers game here, trading relatively cost effectively. And I'm going to bring in my second round of peltas, and they're going to be able to clean up whatever's left, also absorb some more of the longbow hunter fire. And they actually got a lot of kills, 52 on one, 39 on the other, 43 on the other one. And man, lots of chevs going off for Suebi, getting a lot of kills. But mind you, a lot of this damage was done on cheap-ish troops, which I don't care too much about. And here come the Scythian, or the step horse archers. I'm going to try and target, I think the most important troops to target are going to be the cavalry forces. One of my troops is given the order to just charge straight into the longbow hunters. I'm going to take the opportunity to hit him. My opponent is going to try and intercept, and that's going to pull his archers into kind of a dangerous position where now I can fire at them with their backs turned. And then my peltas here, exploiting the confusion, are going to actually be told to target this longbow hunter force. So always when you're staging the assaults, make sure that you have everything going at once. So look at his hunters trying to seek shelter, and they're going to run into the embrace of my peltas. So that's how you think strategically. You do an attack to force your opponent to move in a certain direction, and then once they move in that direction, have something in place to punish them for doing that. And that is exactly what I did with my peltas here. My horse archers meanwhile pulled out, and now I've busted through this area here. The rest of my forces, I could have kept them back here to deal with this threat, but that's just wasting time. So immediately I sent them over here. This Suebi Swordmaster force is going to be dealt with easily by my remaining hoplites, and the rest of the forces are well on their way to reinforcing my position. I'm not quite yet ready to punch through here. I really need some more archer fire and hoplite tanking potential to get at my opponent's flank. I'm going to threaten another charge, and I wasn't able to get through all the way to these longbow hunters. I got a bit eager, and you'll see how ineffective that charge was. I had nothing to back that up, and that was just a waste. So don't do that. Here I noticed that the cavalry is in a position to chase after my pick peltas and these berserkers to get in at me. This is another important strategic thing. You have to know when to pick your battles. I'm just going to merely pull back with my skirmishers, know that he has no way of punishing me, and invite these berserkers to my side of the battlefield, where all of a sudden I can, fan out, immediately fan out, so that if he does charge me, I can attack them from multiple angles. And also it means that he has to choose a target. Whichever one he chooses means one of them is going to get to shoot into the flank of the berserkers. So this is a battle on my turn. Notice also how I've brought up my step lancers. And so I'm going to deny his invitation for a straight up battle, continue to shoot from the flank, and then charge in with the step lancers. That is as clean an engagement as you'll get here. Berserkers being dealt with rather easily. And then I'm going to charge in with some more supporting troops just to knock the wind out of his berserkers. They're down to 6 men, exhausted and wavering. Armored horse archers also going to come in to clean this engagement up. Boom, swiftly. And then I'm going to move my pick peltas here to dissuade his troops firing at my nice cavalry blob. And I'm going to charge in here. Meanwhile, I've got my archers in a position to attack at the same time on the flank. So this is how you want to take out these fortified positions. I've got my step troops charging forward, and they're going to hit. Oh, actually, I decided to pull out of this engagement. I'm going to let my peltas eat this, because I figure I don't want to waste my lancer troops. And I'm going to instead focus fire on his guys. Here, again, another situation where I could have allowed his berserkers to charge into my Cimmerian noble infantry, but instead I'm just going to pull back to the safety of my lines, get a couple extra shots of damage in with my archers, and then turn about and engage. And then notice immediately what I'm going to do with my archers is I know that they're no longer in a position to do damage, so I'm going to pull them around the flank to try and shoot into his guys. My opponent did a good job of reacting with his cav. This is a good 1-2 punch on his part, and I'm immediately going to have to reconsider my options. I want to put this on slow motion. Notice how I split my archers. I immediately sent one over to try and hold down his cav, and the other 2 I brought back to the relative safety here so they can continue to fire. Had I kept all my guys in a single blob, they would have all been tied down by this cavalry charge, but by doing a nice little split here, I can hopefully clean up his forces. Another cool thing about my troops here is they can actually whip out a secondary weapon, a spear, so they actually do pretty well against cavalry. I don't think my opponent was expecting that. And then I have reinforcing hoplites coming in from the back of that engagement, but they're a little bit too late, so my opponent exploiting a nice little timing opportunity here. He's going to charge straight into my archers. I have my second one firing in, but the first one is going to pull out of here and get pretty handedly run over. But luckily, reinforcements are on the way, and I did a good job of targeting some of his weaker units. He's going to do a nice charge into the rear of my Cimmerian nobles, which is really good. That's going to free up his berserkers to continue to do damage, but now my reinforcements are in, and I can throw them into the mix to clean up his noble riders and reform my heavy archers. Meanwhile, up through the front, he's left this position unguarded. Step lancers are going to get in, and they get right into his archers as the berserkers come here. This is where I know my step lancers are screwed. This is where I tell all my forces, stand your ground and fire away. Just nuke from orbit this position. So I'm going to do that with all of my archers. He knows that this is not the engagement he can really take, but there's nowhere for him to run. And look at all of my step troops firing away, peltas, horse archers, everything into this little barbarian force. And then I'm just going to decide to charge in with everything, bowl his guys over, momentum's on my side, and bam, there you go, they're shattered immediately. The forces on this side as well are going to break. I bring my archers around the flank, and we're going to do a clean sweep into the last of the berserkers. This is a pretty well executed fight. My men are cheering because for once a river battle did not end up in a clusterfuck, what do you call these? Basically stand still at the choke point. They are cheering the fact that I had a little bit more tactical thought to me and decided to go about this a little bit more of a friendly way for my forces, not sacrificing troops and yeah, pulling out a really nice victory with some cool tactical lessons. So it's been a while that I've been able to do one of these nice tactical videos in Rome 2. I don't really think Warhammer I have the same ability to convey tactical messages, or that the game is, Warhammer is tactical, but just not so much the way it is here, because the units are so kind of crazy. Magic throws a little bit of a twist to it. The asymmetry makes it a little bit harder to do tactics because it really depends on the situation, or at least I should say the tactics aren't as clear cut. It starts to be very situational. But yeah, that's it for this battle. I hope you guys enjoyed. I do definitely plan on doing some more of these old school Total War battles with obviously more historical content and then some more strategic analysis. I know it's been a while since I've done these, and it's probably something that's sorely missed, both from your part and my own. So anyways, let's end the replay, take a look at some of the final stats here. I brought 1,100 men, my enemy brought 820. For some reason, I always like bringing more numbers, more quantity than quality in Total War battles, mostly because it gives me, I believe, more tactical options of attacking, retreating, surrounding, doing a lot of that, and you saw much of that at play, and it gives you the opportunity to make low investment troops pay for themselves much more than they would otherwise. So for instance here, I mean, step horse archers, these guys like are 350 or something like that. Very, very cheap. 79 kills, 52. I mean, they got as many kills as sword masters. So yeah, they definitely pay for themselves. Hoplites, or Pig Peltas, I should say, doing really well. Hoplites doing so-so. I mean, they held their ground in their job. And these noble riders, pretty much a waste. Yeah, 83 kills, but that was running down cheap-ish archers. So yeah, not proving their worth. But anyways, this was a fun battle. I do hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more, and see you in the next one. Definitely check out also my Facebook page where I have military history content that I share, and check out my other battles that I covered, documentaries and whatnot. Stay tuned for more. Peace out.